It was a kind of day where the clouds hung heavy, as though the sky itself bore the weight of secrets. Rain tapped impatiently on the arched windows of the Greymoor Estate, and inside, amid the candlelit gloom of the drawing-room, the reading of the will had ended with a silence so thick it might have been carved. Julian Thorne sat in the farthest chair, posture taut, jaw clenched, the echo of the solicitor's final words still ringing in his ears. And to Julian, youngest son of the late Lord Thorne, nothing further shall be granted, as stipulated by the deceased. Not a shilling, not a corner of the estate, not even the ancient telescope in the attic he had loved as a child. The rest of the family wore carefully neutral expressions, though he caught the flicker of smirk on his older brother Alaric's face, just before the man reached for his glass of scotch and turned away. Julian stood slowly. His limbs felt stiff, almost unreal, as though grief and betrayal had hardened him into something other than human. The fire in the hearth popped and hissed, casting shadows like long fingers across the paneled walls. He was halfway to the door when a voice stopped him. "Mr. Julian," came a whisper from behind. He turned to find Mrs. Whitlow, the housekeeper, standing in the dim hallway beyond the drawing-room, a woman as old as the dust in the chandelier, with eyes that seemed to see past the flesh and into the hollows of a soul. She didn't speak again, just reaching to fold her apron and pulled out a leather-bound book, worn but intact, with a brass clasp shaped like a serpent eating its tail. She looked both ways down the corridor, then pressed the book into his hands. Her voice was a whisper, but it trembled with urgency. "Check the library wall. The panel under the third shelf from the left. But only at midnight. And Julian, don't open the book before then. You mustn't." She turned and vanished down the servants' hall, leaving Julian standing alone, the book in his hands already pulsing with a strange, almost electric warmth. He barely remembered returning to his room. The rest of the evening passed in a blur. Supper uneaten, words unspoken. He sat on the edge of his bed, the book beside him, glaring in the candlelight like a sleeping beast. By the time the grandfather clock in the great hall began to chime midnight, Julian was already moving, heart pounding, each step down the corridor accompanied by the rhythmic knock of the pendulum echoing through the walls. The library was dark, save for the moonlight streaming in through the tall windows. Dust shimmered in the beams like powdered silver. He made his way to the shelf Mrs. Whitlow had described and knelt, third shelf from the left. He ran his fingers along the wooden base and, sure enough, found a small panel loose at the edge. It clicked inward with a soft groan, revealing a narrow recess behind it. Julian reached in, and his fingers brushed cold metal. It was a key, ancient and iron, with runes etched along the bow. His heart leapt. He turned to the book, finally daring to unclasp it. The serpent gave way with a click, and the book fell open, revealing not pages, but hollow inside, perfectly fitted to the shape of the key, and a single parchment note, yellowed and sealed with red wax bearing the Thorne family crest. Breaking the seal, Julian unfolded the paper. The ink was faded but legible. "If you are reading this, Julian, then the will you heard today was only the beginning of the truth. The real inheritance lies beneath this house, where the foundations were laid in blood and sealed with silence. The key you hold will open the door. But know this, what was hidden for a reason. Once you enter, you cannot turn back. Midnight is the first threshold. The others will come. Be ready." Julian's breath caught. Beneath the house? He looked again at the key, at the hollow book, at the shelves around him, filled with volumes of ancient lore and dusty secrets. Something strange pulsed beneath his skin, a call, deep and old, like a memory that wasn't his. And from somewhere below, as though through stone and earth, came the sound of something unlocking. Julian's fingers trembled as he gripped the key. The sound had stopped. No more grinding of stone, no whispered voices from the dark. Just the steady thrum of his heartbeat and the quiet tick of the grandfather clock 2 rooms away. He took a lantern from the library wall, lit it, and followed instinct more than memory down the narrow servants' corridor at the back of the estate. The hallway sloped downward, far more than it should have. Cobwebs thickened. The walls wept with damp. And then he saw it. A door. Not wood. Not stone. Metal matte black. its surface etched with the same runes from the key. Julian hesitated. The will had left him nothing. The book had given him everything. Or perhaps it was a test. He inserted the key. A hiss like steam. The lock turned with a groan centuries old. The door swung inward. Behind it, stairs spiraled into the earth. He descended. The air grew warmer. The lantern flickered. The deeper he went, the more he noticed the walls pulsing slightly, almost breathing. At last, the stairs opened into a vast cavern beneath the estate. At the center stood a stone platform. On it, a single sarcophagus bound in chains and glowing faintly blue. Julian stepped forward. Something within him surged, a memory not his own. Visions of an ancestor in robes whispering incantations, of blood rituals, of a pact sealed in the name of power and legacy. The Thorne family had buried more than gold. They had buried a deal. The book had said the real inheritance lay beneath the house. And now, standing before the chained tomb, Julian understood. A voice echoed from the shadows, deep and ageless. Thorne blood has returned. The final seal is broken. Chain snapped. The lid of the sarcophagus began to slide open. And Julian, heir to forgotten legacy, stepped forward to claim what had always waited for him in the dark.